I want you to just take a second and imagine that you are the Spanish governor of Puerto Rico. We're talking early 1600s.
Right, so you've got the whole regal setup going on.
Exactly. You are standing there in your gleaming, polished armor, just looking out over your colony. You represent the absolute rigid authority of literally the most powerful empire on earth at that time.
And you demand total obedience from everyone.
Total obedience, yeah. But the wild thing is, you are completely oblivious to the fact that the military captain standing right next to you, like literally your right-hand guy, is secretly being paid his salary in illegal chocolate.
Which is just so incredibly funny to picture.
Right. Paid in contraband chocolate, grown by a man that everyone in your entire royal court is pretending doesn't even exist.
I mean, it completely shatters that textbook image we have of the Spanish Empire, doesn't it?
It really does.
Because we like our history neat, conquerors on one side, the conquered on the other. But the reality on the ground in the 17th century Caribbean was, well, it was a landscape of pure survival. And it definitely didn't rely on steel swords or, formal military formations.
Which is exactly our mission for today's deep dive.
Mm.
We are pulling from this fascinating stack of sources to trace a sprawling, multi-generational battlefield.
Oh, and it's a massive battlefield.
Yeah, we've got translated colonial court documents, these massive administrative ledgers from the Escribano de Cámara that were buried deep in the archives of Seville, and some really brilliant modern historical analyses to pull it all together.
And together we're going to walk you through, well, a mother's desperate lawsuits, a shattered economy built entirely on chocolate, and an explosive tax revolt that literally redrew the map.
It's going to be a wild ride. But to really understand the stakes of these archival records, we have to set the stage first.
Right, yeah. So we are in 17th century San Germán. This is on the western side of Puerto Rico. And in this specific time and place, a rumor could be deadlier than a musket ball.
Wow, just a rumor.
Literally just a rumor, because the entire social and economic order revolved around this concept called Limpieza de Sangre, which translates to purity of blood.
And I really want you, the listener, to imagine the sheer paranoia of living under that kind of system. Because this isn't just about, like, snobby aristocrats checking your pedigree to get into an exclusive club.
No, not at all.
The Spanish Inquisition is a very real, very present shadow hanging over your neighborhood.
Absolute terror. I mean, if rival families whispered that you had conversos in your family tree.
And we should clarify, conversos being secret. Crypto-Jewish ancestors from places like Lisbon or Seville who were forced to convert to Catholicism, right?
Exactly. If anyone even whispered that you had converso heritage, your life was effectively over.
Just done.
Done. Your property could be confiscated, your social standing vaporized, and your physical safety was in immediate jeopardy. Neighbors watched neighbors constantly.
Like looking for any little slip-up.
Yeah, like, did you light candles on a Friday evening? Did you avoid eating pork at a public tavern? Just one bad rumor, and the Inquisition would literally dismantle your entire existence.
Living in a world where your bank account, your career, your physical freedom, where all of that relies completely on your great-grandmother's reputation, is just a terrifying vulnerability.
It really is.
And that intense, suffocating paranoia perfectly sets the stage for the fierce matriarch of our story today. Her name is Mariana de Gracia González de Matos y Millán.
What a name.
It's a very powerful name. But I was looking at the family tree in our notes before we started, and I really need you to untangle a wildly complex dynamic for me here because it is messy.
Oh, it is a tangled web, but completely by design.
Right, because the records show Mariana is legally married to a man named Juan Rodriguez de Olivencia. And Juan is widely known in the region as an acquitted smuggler king. So already, this is not exactly a quiet, law-abiding, traditional household.
Oh, definitely not.
But then you look at the documents regarding her son, Diego Martínez de Matos, and they point to a completely different biological father. So what is the missing piece here?
So the missing piece is basically the ticking time bomb sitting right in the middle of Mariana's living room.
Okay.
Juan, the smuggler king, is the legal husband, yes. But Diego's actual biological father was a Portuguese converso and cacao farmer named Antonio Antunes.
Wait, wow. So she is raising the child of a secret, crypto-Jewish Portuguese man while married to a local crime boss right under the nose of the Spanish colonial government.
That is exactly what she's doing. And if the colonial courts or the Inquisition find out about Antonio, the entire family is destroyed.
So what does she do?
Well, Mariana goes on the offensive. She is not the type to sit around waiting for a rival to accuse her of having impure blood in her household. So while her legal husband is out cutting illicit deals with foreign ships. She wages this proactive scorched earth war in the colonial courts.
She is basically building what the sources call her paper armor.
Yes, perfect term for it.
And the mechanics of how she did this are just fascinating. Because she spends massive amounts of capital launching preemptive lawsuits.
Which was incredibly expensive.
Right. In a society where paper and ink are rare, expensive commodities, she is paying court scribes to generate endless pages of genealogical certificates. She hauls these prominent witnesses into court to swear under oath on the public record to her unblemished old Christian lineage.
She's constructing an absolute dual reality.
Yeah.
Because the colonial courts see exactly what she wants them to see, right? They see a fiercely protective, aristocratic woman defending her honor. They're completely blind to the fact that she is actively, systematically covering up a hidden heritage that would have brought the Inquisition right to her doorstep.
It totally reminds me of like a modern billionaire who knows a massive, catastrophic scandal is about to leak to the press.
Oh, that's a good comparison.
Right. Like, instead of waiting for the bad news to hit, they launch a highly publicized, multi-million-dollar PR campaign highlighting all their charitable donations just to completely flood the news cycle.
Flood the zone, exactly. It's a smokescreen.
It's a total smokescreen. But looking at her marriage, I have to wonder, was marrying Juan, this known dangerous smuggler king, was that actually part of the smokescreen?
I mean, you really have to think about the calculation she's making there.
Like, was he just a convenient, intimidating shield to hide the truth about Diego's real father?
Absolutely, because think about it. Juan's reputation as a connected, dangerous smuggler actually served her incredibly well.
Because nobody wants to mess with him.
Exactly. Who in San Germán is going to aggressively question the family lineage of a local kingpin? Nobody.
Yeah.
The local magistrates respected the massive paper trail she bought, and the local citizens respected the physical threat her husband represented. So it was a brilliant and honestly a highly necessary cover-up.
That is just wild. But, I mean, Mariana's manufactured paperwork definitely bought the family time. But paper can only do so much, right?
Right.
It couldn't hide the sheer volume of physical wealth that Antonio Antunes, the biological father, was accumulating in the background.
And that wealth is exactly what would eventually put a massive target on all of their backs.
Because why was Antonio worth all this extreme legal cover-up in the first place?
Well, to call Antonio just a, quote, cacao farmer heavily understates his position. He was a quiet, incredibly powerful player in a completely underground economy.
Okay, so break that down for us.
So the Spanish crown, sitting way over in Madrid, was utterly obsessed with taxing gold and silver. That was the official wealth of the empire.
If it didn't shine, they didn't care.
Basically, yeah. But Portuguese crypto Jews, like Antonio, they dominated the true liquid currency of the Atlantic world.
Which was chocolate.
Precisely. Cacao was the engine of the shadow economy.
I think we really need to explain the logistics of this to you guys, because it wasn't just, a few plants in a backyard. Cacao was a luxury good in massive demand over in Europe.
Oh, huge demand.
And the geography of western Puerto Rico was just perfect for it.
Yeah.
You have these dense, hidden coastal groves that are way off the beaten path, far away from the official ports where the Spanish galleons patrolled. So Antonio's growing tons of this stuff entirely off the imperial tax ledgers. And then at night, these Dutch smuggling ships pull up into these shallow, hidden coves, and they just bypass Spanish taxes entirely.
It was completely untraceable wealth. I mean, there was very little physical silver or gold coin circulating on the island at this time.
Right, because Madrid was hoarding it all.
Exactly. So cacao literally functioned as hard currency. Antonio was sitting on a mountain of off-the-books cash, effectively running a shadow cartel.
Wow.
But, having that much leverage also means you have a massive problem. You cannot afford to draw the crown's attention.
Which brings us to a really shocking historical detail in the sources. I couldn't believe this when I read it.
Oh, the military title.
Yes. Antonio was actually offered a highly prestigious Spanish administrative and military role. The title was Teniente de Guerra, or Lieutenant of War, in the region of Coamo.
And he flatly refused it.
Which is the part that is so counterintuitive. People spent their entire lives, they literally bankrupted their families, bribing officials to get a title like Teniente de Guerra.
Oh, yeah, it was the peak of society.
It was the ultimate status symbol. You get to wear the uniform, you wield military power. Why on earth would he turn down the exact thing everyone else in the empire is fighting for?
Because accepting the title meant stepping into the light. And for Antonio, the light was deadly.
Right, the scrutiny.
If you put on the crown's uniform, it triggers extreme vetting. The governor, the local magistrates, and most terrifyingly, the Inquisition. They would suddenly be reviewing your grandparents, your associates, your household.
They'd want to know where every penny came from.
Exactly. For a hidden converso running an illegal cacao operation, accepting that kind of prestige was basically signing his own death warrant. Mariana's paper armor would never hold up to a full Inquisition audit.
It's like putting a neon sign over an illegal speakeasy.
Exactly that. So he chose the shadows over the crown to protect his life and his wealth.
That is a terrifying calculation to have to make, but a really smart one. And we actually have documented proofs of just how deeply embedded his shadow economy was in the official Spanish system, don't we?
We do.
There is a literal smoking gun receipt in these records.
Yes. So, years later, his son, Diego, gave these legal testimonies that laid bare the actual mechanics of this underground world. Diego documented an unfulfilled business transaction involving his biological father, Antonio.
I want you to hear the specifics of this transaction because it completely exposes the hypocrisy of the entire colonial structure.
It really does.
So Diego outlines a debt that his father owed to a local Spanish military captain. The debt was for 10 yards of high-end imported French cloth called Rouen.
Which was an absolute luxury textile at the time.
Super high-end. The contract valued it at 12 reales per varavara, being a unit of measurement, bringing the total debt to 120 reales.
Now, as we established, paying a debt of 120 reals in physical silver coin in rural Puerto Rico was nearly impossible.
Right, nobody had that kind of cash lying around.
The crown hoarded all the hard currency.
So how does this prestigious military captain get paid? The contract explicitly states that the debt was to be settled in contraband cacao.
Yep.
Harvested straight from Antonio's hidden farms, packed up, and handed over to pay for a luxury textile.
It's amazing.
The Spanish military elite, the exact people tasked by the crown to police the colony, hunt down smugglers, and enforce the law, were literally funding their own luxury lifestyles, using the illegal chocolate grown by the very people they were supposed to be hunting.
It's honestly worse than hypocrisy. It's a massive security risk for the empire. If that receipt had fallen into the wrong administrative hands, it would have been catastrophic.
As would roll.
Oh, absolutely. But it just shows that the entire elite tier of the island was quietly running on Antonio's chocolate. The official laws dictated by the king in Spain meant absolutely nothing compared to the economic reality in the coastal groves.
But, you can only run a shadow cartel of that magnitude for so long before rival aristocrats notice all the prime land you're buying up.
Right. People get jealous.
Exactly. So fast forward a bit to the late 17th century, and the paper trail finally catches fire. The Matos dynasty accumulated so much land and wealth that it triggered an absolute archival civil war.
Yeah, if we look into the Escribania de Cámara, which is that massive legal archive over in Spain, we find this incredible document known as Legajo 124b.
And what's in that file?
This file details a vicious, multi-year legal war in the courts of San Germán. Rival administrative families realized just how vast the Matos dynasty's holdings had become, and they wanted that wealth.
They smelled blood in the water.
They did. So they started hunting the Matos family through the legal system, trying to find any flaw in their lineage or their titles so they could strip the land away.
And the Matos family, staying incredibly true to Mariana's original playbook of legal manipulation, they came up with a genius counter-strategy.
It was so smart.
They didn't fight back with violence, right? They fought back with loopholes. Diego's grandson was placed in direct legal and administrative control of the family's vast properties.
Which, on the surface, seems like a pretty normal inheritance.
Right, passing it down to the grandson.
Until you look at his occupation, the grandson was an ordained Catholic priest.
Wait, I want to make sure I understand the mechanics of this because it blew my mind. They purposely used his ordination to turn the family estate into untaxable church land.
That is exactly what they did. Under Spanish colonial law, there was this legal mechanism known as a capellanía, or a chantry.
Okay.
By endowing the property to fund a priest, who just so happens to be your own grandson, the property legally transitions into ecclesiastical jurisdiction.
So it becomes tied to the church.
Precisely.
Which means the local secular government isn't legally allowed to touch it anymore.
Exactly.
Right.
The secular governors, the rival families, the tax collectors, they couldn't tax it, they couldn't seize it, and they couldn't audit it without picking a direct fight with the Catholic Church.
Which nobody wanted to do.
Right, nobody's going to mess with the church.
It is literally the 17th century equivalent of a massive corporation using an untouchable offshore tax haven in the Caymans.
It really is.
You take your most valuable assets, move them into an entity that the local regulators cannot legally pierce, and you just sit back and watch them pull their hair out.
Just brilliant.
The grandson wore the church's robes, but practically speaking, he functioned as the ultimate asset protection attorney for a secret dynasty.
And we really need to pause and appreciate the profound historical irony of this strategy.
Oh, for sure.
Because here you have a family whose entire foundation was built on hiding its converso, crypto-Jewish roots from the Catholic Inquisition.
Right. Terrified of the church.
And then a few generations later, what do? They use the legal structure of the Catholic Church itself as a vault to protect their contraband-funded empire from the Spanish state.
It is poetic justice on a massive scale. I love it.
It really is.
But even the church shield couldn't protect them from the shifting tides of the empire forever, right? By the mid-1700s, the Spanish crown changes the rules of the game entirely.
Yeah, the empire needed money, they were funding all these European wars, and they were bleeding cash.
So they looked to the colonies.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So they initiated what are known as the Bourbon reforms. These were sweeping, aggressive administrative changes designed to extract maximum wealth from the colonies.
Squeeze them dry.
Basically, they stopped ignoring the agrarian wealth in the Caribbean and started imposing aggressive, stifling taxes on the landowners of the Western Plains. And the pressure was just immense.
Even for the Matos family.
Oh, yeah. The old legal shields, even the church loopholes, they all began cracking under the weight of these new imperial tax collectors.
So by 1760, the descendants of Diego Martínez de Matos, they look around. They look at their interlocked allies, specifically the Ortiz Vélez family, which is another massive landholding dynasty, and they realize the corrupt municipal core of Saint-Germain is going to completely ruin them.
They're going to lose everything if they stayed.
Right. They decide they're completely done playing defense in a rigged system.
Because paper armor was no longer enough, the lawsuits and the loopholes had run their course.
So they escalated to the ultimate maneuver.
They really did.
They didn't just stage a protest in the town square. They didn't file another legal grievance. They physically broke away. They gathered their families, their wealth, their influence, and they moved. They founded an entirely new city, Mayagüez.
And this is a vital piece of context for how we understand history in general.
How so?
Because we are often taught that cities are founded for these grand, noble reasons, right? Like brave explorers pushing the boundaries of civilization, or religious missions looking to spread the faith.
Look like the textbook stuff.
Exactly. But here, the documented historical fact is that Mayagüez was a cold, calculated, tactical revolt.
But wait, how does drawing a new municipal line legally stop the Spanish crown from taxing you? I mean, you are still physically on a Spanish island.
It all comes down to local autonomy. By founding a new, officially recognized municipality, they earned the right to form their own cabildo, or town council. That is the absolute key. If you control the cabildo, you appoint your own mayors, you appoint your own local judges, and most importantly, you appoint your own tax collectors.
Oh, wow. So it was basically an economic secession.
Pretty much.
By creating Mayagüez, they essentially walled themselves off from the corrupt officials back in San Germán who were trying to enforce all those heavy Bourbon taxes. They hijacked the administrative machinery of the empire to build a fortress for themselves.
Exactly. The descendants of cacao smugglers literally built a new municipality just to redraw the jurisdictional lines and keep the imperial hands out of their pockets.
That is so bold.
It was the ultimate act of defiance, disguised as civic development.
I mean, let's just step back for a second and look at this incredible multi-generational journey we've just unpacked for you.
It's quite a saga.
It really starts with Mariana de Gracia launching this massive smokescreen of aggressive lawsuits, using her marriage to a smuggler king to hide the deadly secret that her son's biological father is a converso cacao farmer.
All right. And then we have that biological father, Antonio Antunes, turning down elite military titles to stay in the shadows, quietly funding the Spanish elite with illegal chocolate while avoiding the gaze of the Inquisition.
Then it passes down to a grandson, throwing a priest collar around his neck to create a holy tax shield for the family fortune. And finally, when the imperial taxes just get too ridiculously high, the family unplugs from the local government entirely and just builds their own city, Mayagüez.
They just built their own reality.
Exactly. The Matos line didn't just survive the 17th and 18th centuries. They manipulated the legal definitions and they physically rewrote the map of Puerto Rico to preserve their autonomy.
It's a huge testament to human ingenuity in the face of absolute systemic oppression.
It really is.
But, it also leaves us with a fascinating thread to pull on regarding our modern world.
What do you mean?
Well, we don't use parchment, court scribes, and illegal chocolate to build our paper armor anymore. But the actual mechanics, they haven't changed at all. Think about the digital age.
Well, that's an interesting jump.
When you look at how modern billionaires, massive multinational corporations, and political elites operate today, they use anonymous shell companies. They use decentralized crypto wallets and data havens in places like the Cayman Islands or Delaware.
Right.
They are doing the exact same thing Mariana and Antonio did. They are using the complex, invisible layers of the legal system to hide their true wealth and identities in plain sight.
So the game is exactly the same, just a different board.
Exactly. It makes you wonder, when you interact with the digital world today, how much of the modern economy is just a high-tech version of 17th century paper armor?
That is a brilliant point to end on. The tools have evolved from ink and cacao to servers and code, but the desire to build a fortress out of loopholes is exactly the same today as it was back then.
Absolutely.
Well, definitely keep that in mind the next time you hear about a new offshore tax leak or an anonymous corporate buyout on the news. Thank you for exploring the depths of the archives with us today, and we'll catch you on the next deep dive.